Hello, and welcome to the first ever edition of the Osceola's Reeling Them In Recruiting Report. My name is Pat Burnham. I'll be the host of today's program, and I'll be joined by Osceola recruiting analyst Charles Fishbein. Our guest today will be three-star quarterback prospect Ryan Browne from Milford Academy in New Berlin, New York. Ryan is a member of the class of 2023 and played high school football at Venice High School in Florida. Well, Fish, I want to thank you for joining me. It's been a while since we've had a chance to get online. How have you been down there in sunny South Florida?
I'm doing great, man.
Well, of course, I don't even think Ryan knew this before we got started, but Ryan Browne's our guest. He plays quarterback at Milford Academy via Venice, and actually there was a stop before Venice, so we'll get into that with Ryan. But Ryan, the Osceola just became the Florida State rival site, so we're now associated with Rivals.com, and you're going to be the first guest on what we are calling the Reeling Them In Recruiting Report. So thanks for being our first guest.
Yes, sir. It's an honor. Super excited to talk.
Well, obviously, the reason we were talking with you is because you were at Seminole Showcase this past Saturday in Tallahassee. We'll get a little bit more caught up to speed on your recruitment by Florida State. But, obviously, you are at Milford Academy. You were at Venice last year as a high school senior. You're from Michigan originally. Kind of tell us your background, where you played high school ball in Michigan, why and how you ended up in Venice, and just give us a little background on yourself.
Yep. So my background is my dad. He played in the NFL for 4 years. He played at Boston College. He's a sports performance trainer now up in Michigan. So I've trained with him my whole entire life. And I went to Brother Rice High School up in Michigan. And when COVID hit back in 2020, brought me down to Florida. Had a great year at Venice, felt a little bit under-recruited, and that's why I'm taking the prep school route. And since I've done it, I've picked up some big interest in some other offers, so I'm definitely happy about that decision thus far.
Yeah. Well, talk to us a little bit now. Obviously, I believe your first communication with Florida State came when you were at Venice High School, when you were a senior. So tell us a little bit about what it was like, how that happened, and what the conversations were like early in the recruitment.
Yep. So they were actually in touch with me my junior year. They talked a lot with my head coach about me.
Okay.
They were in touch with him, I want to say March, right before my spring season started, my junior year, going into my senior year. And they were in touch with me. They said they were really impressed with my size and how well I could run at my size. And they said they were super excited to see me in the Venice offense. And obviously that worked out really well. I had a great year at Venice. And Coach Norvell was actually at one of our games. I believe it was the Edgewater game. He was watching a few of my teammates that are big on their radar. And obviously now I'm on the radar as well. So it was great to have him out at a game. And I'm super excited to be talking with them again.
So let me ask you this. Is it kind of cool that, a major college coach was at your game there to look at other prospects and you caught their eye? It was not intentional.
No, yeah, it was awesome. And with the way we play football down in South Florida, especially, but Venice, there were coaches out there all the time. So it was amazing. But you see a face like Coach Norvell. That was super special to see a guy like that out at your game. So that was definitely a motivational thing to see him watching your game.
Ryan, I'm going to jump in real quick. One of the things, the film doesn't lie. Coaches evaluate the film. You could either play or you can't. I think one of the things that gets so overlooked is your ability to lead a team. Here you are, your leadership skills have obviously proven themselves because you took a team to a state title. What did it take to get you? You went to Venice. These guys they don't know you. You're from out of state. How did you take that leadership role, and why did those guys on that team get behind you like they did, and you were able to lead them to a state championship?
Right. Well, the big thing was obviously they didn't know a lot about me. So as soon as I stepped in there, I had to be vocal. I had to go out of my way to get to know people. So I made a big effort to do that. And, obviously there's more than just football. You have to get to know people on a personal level. And that's a big thing. I became really close with my offensive line at first. We would go fishing all the time, stuff like that. We made a really good connection that way. And so when we're on the field, it was like you're playing with your buddies, not just your teammates. And then that's just a completely different connection. And it builds a lot of trust. And then as I built that relationship with them, it just made it easier with everybody else. And then they're more than just teammates, they're friends as well. And everybody just wants to play for each other. So that was the big thing, was just connecting with people on a personal level and not just football.
When did you know last year that you had not only a good team, but a team that could potentially play for and win a state title?
Right after the 2020 season. I mean, we had conversations right after our first workout of the offseason. We were in the locker room meeting, and Coach Peacock he said, "Hey guys, we're a special team, and if we don't win the state championship, it's a disappointment." And we all took that really seriously. So we never had a guy missing workouts, and if we did, everybody ran for it. So we held everybody accountable. And we were super serious about it. Like, we were all football players. We weren't just kids that went to school and played football. And it was super serious. It was our life, and we knew what we had to do, and we kept that same mindset the whole year, and we just kept it game by game.
Well, hey, I know we talked a little bit before we started taping. A lot of people think 6'5", 220-pound quarterback, straight drop back guy. I started watching your film. Fish has watched your film. One of the first. I mean, I've seen you throw in person. I know you can throw it, but on film, what jumped out at me was your ability to run the ball. Tell us a little bit about your athletic background, and after that, what you think your strengths are. What makes you a Division I quarterback?
Right. So I think the big thing for me is a lot of people don't actually realize that I can run the ball because they see my size and they think right away that I'm a drop back passer. But once you turn on the film, you'll see that I had a few hurdles, I had some long runs, and I play speed. And I think a lot of that is the track background that I have, and obviously my dad's speed performance business that I've worked in my whole life. I ran hurdles, so a few of my highlights were thanks to that, for sure. And I think that really adds a different element to my game, because I really think I wouldn't consider myself a dual threat, because I think I throw the ball so well that I'm more of a drop back passer, but I can run just as well as any dual threat in the country, I believe. And that's because of my size. And I think I'm tough dude to tackle as it is, because I'm big, but I'm also fast. And I think the biggest part of my game is that I know how to prepare, especially all the coaches that I've met in my life and the staff that I had at Venice. They really taught me a lot about the mental aspect of the game, and I think that's what I do really well in, and I love to study the game. So I'm always in the game, and I'm prepared. I know what to see, and when I see it, I know what to do. And I've never really seen something in the game where I hadn't seen it before in film. So I always am prepared for whatever comes at me in a game.
All right. Well, let's move forward a little bit. You go to Venice. You take them to state playoffs game, state championship game. End up going to Milford. Kind of what reignited the conversation with Florida State post high school graduation, and how is that recruitment going now?
Right. What really ignited it was the decommitment of Chris Parsons back in, was it like 3 weeks ago, I believe?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
So I think it was the very next day, actually, they contacted me. Coach Tokars, he followed me on Twitter and Instagram. He gave me a text. We talked on the phone a few times. And I'm going to say we talked at least 5 times in those 3 weeks leading up to camp. And he had also been in touch with my head coach back from Venice a few different times, and they talked about me as well.
Ryan, you look at, we talked about it before you came on here. I compared you to Paxton Lynch in my little breakdown of you. Who would you compare yourself to? Like, you pattern your game and you compare, like, you want to be like that player. I know you want to be your own guy, but who are some of the guys that you've seen play college or pro that basically you try to emulate?
Right. Well, right now, I think my favorite dude, I watched Matthew Stafford my whole life, so I love him as a quarterback. But I think to compare my game, or somebody that I really look up to currently, would be Joe Burrow, because he has such a competitive spirit, and that he's a great leader. The way he flipped the Bengals around after 1 year, He got dudes behind him, and he knows how to prepare as well. I think I can run a little bit better than he can, but I think just his competitive spirit is something that, like, that's exactly how I want to be, and I think that's something I look up to a lot in him.
Well, you were down here Saturday, competing in the what you love to do, obviously, and you look good to us. We got tape on you. We watched you throw. Had a good day. Kind of how do you feel like you did, and what has transpired with Florida State since then?
Right. So I had a really good time out there. It was a ton of fun. I think I had a solid day. I don't think it was my best day. I had a big day of traveling the night before, so obviously that's an effect. But I think I did a good job. I don't think I did my best job though. I have a lot to improve on. But I had a good day. I was happy with it. I talked with Coach Tokars for about 5 minutes after camp, and he said, "Hey, like we're really impressed with the way you threw today. We were super happy to have you out here, and we took a lot of video on you, so we're gonna have to reevaluate that, and look back at everything and reevaluate you completely after seeing you throw live. But we were impressed with you, and we're gonna be in touch with you a lot through this next month." And they told me their decision would probably be in the next month tops. So I'm looking forward to see how our relationship grows throughout the next month. And then I talked to Coach Norvell as well, and he kind of told me the same stuff. How they were super happy to have me out there, and they're looking forward to getting to know more about me and to see my film and reevaluate me as well.
Now, you and I did exchange some messages before you got to Tallahassee, and I know recruiting is tough on all positions, but you know, when you're an offensive lineman, the school's going to sign 4 or 5 offensive linemen in your class,
Right.
2 or 3 linebackers, 4 or 5 corners. But for quarterbacks, most schools are only going to sign 1, maybe 2. Kind of tell, like I was surprised. You and I were kind of texting late that Friday night.
Yep.
And it was about 10:30 that you said, "Well, you know, I've got to go. I've got to jump on a plane at 4:30 in the morning." Tell people where you were before you got to Florida State.
Yep. So I was at Penn State. They had a VIP camp as well, the very day before, and obviously I'm not close enough to drive to Penn State. It's about an 8-hour drive, I think, and especially being at Florida State the next day, we couldn't drive, so we flew into Pittsburgh, and then we had to drive 3 hours to Penn State. We had camp, and camp was about 6 or 7 hours. We got done with camp at about 9. We drove 3 hours back to our hotel in Pittsburgh, woke up at about 3:45 in the morning, got on the plane, had a layover in Atlanta, flew into Tallahassee, and then basically went straight to campus for my visit and then for the camp. So it was a super busy 2 days. But I mean, that's a good problem to have, to be busy visiting schools and being able to throw in front of these coaches.
Yeah. Now, obviously, your dad was a good player. You say he played pro ball for 4 years, I believe, at Boston College. How helpful has he been as guiding you through the recruiting process?
Oh, he's been everything. I mean, he's taken me all over the country the last 2 years. I've been through it. I've probably been at like 40 different camps the last 2 summers. So, I mean, he makes unbelievable sacrifices for me. He moved me down to Florida so that I could play ball, and obviously that worked out pretty well, and still working its way out. But he does so much for me, and he does a great job keeping my head like straight and looking at the right things and keep a tunnel vision on what I have to do myself, because obviously you can't control what other people do. You can only control what you do. So, I mean, he keeps me really hard at work, and he just makes sure that I understand that I affect what I do. So I just need to stay at work and let other people see what I do.
All right. Well, you know, we hear Coach Norvell and his staff talk a lot about fit, a guy being a good fit for Florida State. What makes you think you're a good fit for Florida State?
Well, I think the biggest thing, I spoke about this with Coach Tokars after camp, was like, obviously Florida State has an amazing tradition of winning, and they're known like nationally, like as one of the best winning cultures in college football. And as a starter, I'm 24-1. So I kind of told him, I think that's why I'm such a good fit, is I personally think I'm a winner. Like, and I hate losing, and I know Florida State hates losing, and they don't do a lot of it. So I think that's a perfect fit for me, is to go into a program like that doesn't like to lose and that doesn't lose, because that's exactly the type of person I am. And I think that my past of winning will continue at Florida State, and their history of winning will come back.
Well, obviously, it was probably fun to work out inside that stadium where they've won a lot of ball games. But
Awesome.
outside of the actual physical camp experience, was there something you learned about Florida State or Tallahassee that you didn't know? And what was your favorite part about the trip to Tallahassee?
Well, I had never been on campus, and I've always loved Florida State. Obviously, Jameis Winston was lighting it up when I was a kid. So I always knew about Florida State, even up in Michigan, watching Florida State. And then being on campus, it felt different than every other campus I've ever been on. I felt a lot more comfortable on campus. And then obviously being around other recruits at the visit, it was great talking to kids and learning more about some people that you see on Twitter, but you've never really spoken to them. And you get to really get to know people on a personal level. And we got to compete in different kind of games and stuff. So it was great. And you get to talk to the coaches a little bit more in more of a casual sense, and not just about recruiting, but how was your flight coming in? How was this other camp? So stuff like that. And I really liked that the staff was personal and they weren't just talking to me just about football.
All right. Well, go ahead. You got one, Fish?
Yeah. I want to just jump in real quick. Your recruitment, you've all been offered by a few schools. If Florida State does offer you, does that push the timeline up? Do you want to make a decision before you get into this season with Milford? What is your timeline going to be going into the upcoming season?
Ideally, yeah, I'd like to make a decision before my season starts, but I have a few other interests from larger schools. So obviously you kind of have to see how those shake out before you really make a decision, because you don't want to leave anything on the table. But if a school like Florida State came in and offered me, I mean, that'd be basically a dream come true. So that would definitely move my timeline up.
Well, let me ask you this. Since you mentioned that you enjoyed the non-football part of the camp as well as the football, give us your favorite movie so people kind of get a little idea of your personality.
My favorite movie is Fight Club.
Okay, all right.
Wow, man, he goes back a little bit, man.
Yeah, you are. He's been watching movies with Dad and Mom.
I know, man.
All right, so if we jumped into your car or truck right now, for Fish and I, when we were in high school, we would have had to turn on the radio. I don't know whether you're turning on the radio.
Hey, I had an Alpine stereo, but these kids don't know what an Alpine stereo is.
What artist or genre of music are we going to hear if we went into your car and turned on your playlist?
I listen to a lot of 90s rap. So my favorite rapper is Nas. Yeah, so I'm a big 90s kid. Even Fight Club's from the 90s too, so that's pretty funny.
God, I feel like I'm hanging out with my son. Holy cow.
Yeah. Nas, Tupac, Biggie.
Oh, wow.
That's all.
All right. And one last question: what degree do you want to pursue once you get into college?
That is a great question, because I mean I've looked at things and there's a lot of different options, and I have interest in a few different categories, but I don't have anything I'm set on. But I've looked at business, because obviously having a business degree is good to have. You learn a lot. Economics as well. And then I've also looked into kinesiology. I know a lot of athletes do that because you kind of learn how to treat yourself when you're injured and stuff like that. You can take care of yourself. So having a future in sports and going into that kind of a major would be helpful for me.
Well, hey, Ryan, we know we've taken up more of your time than we told you we would. Fish and I are really bad about that. When we start talking football, we've both got questions, and
not a problem.
We could probably pepper you with more, but obviously want to thank you for joining us for our first edition of Reeling Them In, and wish you the best of luck. And of course, we'll stay in contact with you, but certainly hope you enjoy the rest of this week before you go back to school and start practice, and enjoy that time with your family, and look forward to catching up again, Ryan.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Hey,
Thank you,
Ryan,
sir.
one last thing, Ryan, honestly, me too. I appreciate you coming on and, talking to you. I'm very impressed with you as a young man, and I wish you nothing but the best. And
Thank you.
honestly, I'm going to be pulling for you now that you've been on our show. So no matter where you go, you have a fan. So.
All right. Awesome. I appreciate you.
All
Thank you.
right,
problem.
Ryan. Have a
Take
great
care.
night, buddy, and we'll catch up again with you soon.
Yes, sir. You too.
Thank you. All right, buddy.
All right.
Well, Fish, hey, I appreciate you joining me again as always. It's always fun to do these things, and we'll do a lot more of them between now and the end of football season.
Well, go reel some more in.
All right, buddy.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.